I've waited 5 seconds, so we know the first 5 seconds are not interesting. Um, I am going to just rattle off the dome my philosophical point of view for a reason. I don't know. It's 12 o'clock, woke up an hour ago. That's life. It's okay. Um, right now, I have very clear but also very strange perspectives. So, on some YouTube short before, I posted my Plato's Republic theory. And Plato basically was like, I don't know if he said it was an ideal or what, but he said that, or the Plato's Republic was like this place where everyone is an expert in their own thing, that everyone is their own philosopher. And so his ideal was living in this like republic where everyone was educated, was whatever. And everyone was like, oh, that's great, but that's this fantastical world. I think now, with the rise of video on mobile phones and the capacity of technology on those mobile phones, this year, next year, most devices will be able to support 5G. And honestly, like the frame rate and like the resolution of all of these videos will be amazing. But at a certain point, it's like, I don't need 4,000 quality, whatever type of video. I just need like a very interesting video, right? And so with the rise of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all of this stuff, just like video on our handheld devices, it allows for people to be able to share their point of view more easily than ever before. And so now, in a way, I can just live my own life with all of these video accounts telling me their point of view. And they're experts. You can easily find like an expert in brutalist architecture, an expert in cats, an expert in like remote controls, like everything like that. And ultimately, it creates an effect very similar to what I think Plato was going for, is like you have these experts, you have this wonderful society of people professing their interests, right? And so now I start to sound just crazier because I wrote this. I think this is 2023, something like that. But you have to also consider that mobile phones and mobile phones' ability to host all of this video, or rather like these platforms, is kind of a recent development. I'd say it was more like 2019, etc. Before that, most people consumed video on their desktops. And that made platforms very singular because there were only so few platforms that were able to support all of that massive amount of storage that was required for videos, and namely YouTube. And so this brings up my second theory, is that YouTube is the modern day equivalent to Aristotelean, whatever, theater, Aristotle's theater, in that, actually I have it on a separate tab over here. Aristotle defined theater as the performance of imitation for spectators, imitation being mimesis. And for me, not even for me, he also, I think later or somewhat defines theater as like being most effective when it's like, 1 to 3 or 2 to 3 people on the stage at once. And for me, I think there's so much connection to the effect of YouTube being on that desktop. And so like there's this concept in theater of the proscenium arch being that like portal so that it's clear to the audiences of like what is fake and or what is the theater story. I think I haven't read this in a really long time, so I'm getting all my thoughts mixed up. But like that's the same thing. And so for me, YouTube being theater isn't even a concept of like YouTube as a platform, but it's more so like the thumbnail and that like active user experience of going into that platform is the theater. And then that connection, like imagine like a thumbnail's like that big, right? That is that portal. The proscenium arch is that space around it. And then you click on it and then you watch Aristotle's like imitation of theater, etc., etc. But I like what these guys didn't realize is, I think, how this could come into reality, because you know they didn't fucking have internet back then, and so this then brings me into another philosophical point, back to Plato, where he had this theory of forms, which I also quickly Googled it because I hadn't remembered in a while. Plato's theory of forms posits that the physical world is a mere imperfect copy of a higher eternal reality, the world of forms or ideas. So like in his mind, if I remember correctly, there's nothing like what an apple is. There's literally like the form of an apple, and then there's like this metaphysical reality where there's, I think it was like a group of guys, or I forgot, gods, I don't remember, that were deciding what an apple looks like. And so my thought is that with the rise of video, the rise of technology being able to support the video, and people being able and encouraged to focus on what their niche is, what their interest is. Let's take, you know, an apple farmer, right? We are getting closer and closer to this theory of forms, not just in like what is the perfect apple, but then also the ideas of that. Like, what is the best apple eating experience? I think right now I'm really into fountain pens. And so I think this is another really good like example, because I learned about fountain pens after I bought one off the whim in a store. And I started searching. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm using. What's going on here? And I found not just information about the fountain pen itself, like what they are, etc., but then also like the experience of it, the nib, what type of ink. And then there's many more types of ink than I would have realized. There's like very translucent inks. There's very shimmery inks. There's inks for this type of pen and this type of pen. And then there's also like lore about different inks that I was reading about. And so then you have this experience that is this all, like, I'm going to say like, maybe I wrote this down, I guess 2023, third wave forms, which is always on social conversation from this like perennial community where you could have this like, I don't know, 15-year-old girl in Kentucky who really loves just fountain pens. And she found out about it because of all the videos she was consuming. But then you could also have a 60-year-old, I think I read recently, Nibmeister, who has dedicated their entire life to like metalsmithing and the actual technical work behind fountain pens. And you have these two people talking at the exact same time about their shared love of fountain pens. And so you have this thing that like social video is actively building and conversing around the form of their niche interest. And then they're continuing to dive and delve more into it. And then that's building up those Platonian ideals faster than we ever thought. which is so interesting to me. And it's also like so difficult to make tangible and real at the same time, because you get, let's say this Nibmeister is in Los Angeles, California, and then this 15-year-old girl is in Kentucky. Like, she might have such a niche, unique interest that none of her shared friends or family might have an interest in, but there's this beautiful community that is around this shared interest of fountain pens. And then her like closest confidant is this like 60-year-old Nibmeister in Los Angeles, California. One, that's creepy. If they like have more conversations outside of that, but like if we're talking specifically that interest around fountain pens, they can then talk and be like, oh, I really like my first foray into fountain pens was, X, Y, and Z criteria. And then the Nibmeister might come in and say like, oh, have you tried this? And so they're just like talking about all of these things. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just like forms all the way down to make it like some weird kind of experience. But it is just so interesting, because I think we're quickly approaching like a fourth wave. Because the thing with video that honestly Mr. Beast kind of like really realized is that you can make a story out of the most like seemingly mundane types of things. And there are very clear tropes and archetypes and editing hacks that you can do to keep people watching for as long as possible. And we're kind of entering, I'm not going to say renaissance, but like, well, renaissance, sure, of videos about normal life, but are told through a beautiful story and editing and just everything type of way, because we've really hit the head on the nail, whatever the phrase is, on just like the unique art of storytelling, which is beautiful. Like, think of that Minecraft video that came out 3 months ago, like 100 players recreate civilization. And then I recently watched a guy talk about this like infestation of ants in his like gigantic terrarium. Those are things that I would never find an interest in normally, but because of the way it was told, the story and the sound and the editing, and just the fact that like I was able to put this up on my screen really shows this like beautiful, I don't know, like reemergence of storytelling and fun and community. And it goes both onto like YouTube platforms with like desktop and TV, but shorts, but also into TikTok as well. Think of like all those story time videos, right? It's people who are kind of mastering the craft of storytelling to keep you riveted. And I just think that's beautiful, honestly. And I needed to put it somewhere. So here it is. I don't know what the hell I'll do with this video, but that's it.